Hey everybody, it's Dean Jackson. Welcome to the More Cheese Less Whiskers podcast, world headquarters right here in Winter Haven, Florida. We have a very special episode today. I have my good friend Mike Koenigs, all the way from San Diego, California. Welcome.
Hi, my brother. It's good to be here with you. It was
It's
great
so nice
seeing
to
you
see
last
you.
week in
Yes,
beautiful
I'm just gonna
Florida.
say, we got together in Palm Beach. That was good. You shared some amazing things.
Yeah.
Now, I want to preface this for everybody too, because this podcast is typically a podcast where I'm working with one business owner a week and we're brainstorming marketing for their business, applying the 8 profit activators. But it's not very often that we have what I call a cheesemaker on the podcast, someone who's got things that can share. So it's not like this is going to be about me sharing marketing things with you. I really want to kind of flip the tables here. And I know that you've got so much stuff that would be valuable to everybody who listens. And how long have we known each other now? We must be coming up on 18 years, probably, maybe.
I'll bet it is. It's for sure more than 15.
Yeah.
So it goes way back to the earliest days of online marketing.
Yeah.
And, it's like being around some of the original founder legends like Frank Kerr and Jeff Walker.
That's it. That's where
this
we
is
all...
way before Russell Brunson days.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's so funny. So, well, I'm excited because I always have such a good time when I'm with you. I think you're a brilliant marketer, brilliant mind. And you have really, in my mind, always been on the forefront of especially the audiovisual, the new technology, all of that stuff. So what's the thing you're most excited about right now? What do you think would be good for us to chat about?
Well, there's always two things that get me. So I'm going to give you something to pick from. So right now at this moment, of course, all the buzz is about AI and how that's going to affect every element of our lives, not just business, not just copywriting, not just marketing. And then the second one is I'm a huge believer in the value and importance of having a strong B2B, actually a B2C brand. In other words, the stronger your brand, the more of a multiplier you have for everything you touch for the rest of your life. And everyone should have a bigger, better personal brand, because long after the business is gone, being found, being noticed, being seen as an authority, being packaged and positioned elevates not just you, but everyone around you. And where I'm putting my attention right now is combining those two. You can get more, faster, better. And I look at, how do you create multipliers everywhere you look, everywhere you go? And I see AI as being your perfect creative partner.
Yeah.
So that's that. If I had to give you
I
again,
think that combination sounds absolutely perfect. I think that would be a really good thing. What I really love about you were one of the very first people to understand the importance of not just video, but quality video. You've always been on, and not in a real cumbersome way, but making it easy for people to get the best quality video. And as long as I've known you, your studios, you've always put a lot of effort into, building out your studios, the sets around you. I remember going to one of your first studios and you had the push button things that you could remotely control the cameras. And I remember the one you had with the cafe,
the pan tilt zooms,
the cafe set with the booth and the stuff there. And so you've got what is a broadcast quality set there for yourself that, you took me on a little, video tour of it when we were Zooming together. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there you go.
Right
so
here.
There's another camera angle there, and there's another one. And there's
another one. And another one, yeah. And then I've got a pan tilt zoom camera that is acting a little wacky at the moment. I could probably pop it up, but everything's computer controlled here.
Right.
I have foot pedals to switch.
Yeah.
So
you're like a one-man band. You can produce and be the talent for everything there. all from your home now. It's such a great, that's one of the greatest gifts that we were given with the pandemic, was being able to adapt and set things up at home. Yeah. Well, we were together in Palm Beach last week with Dan Sullivan at the Free Zone Summit, and you were part of a panel that was talking about AI and the new things, and the things you were sharing there were just amazing to me, just to see what you've been able to do using all, the latest tools and putting them together in a way that creates, super amazing automated workflow. Do you want to talk about that, kind of give some highlights of what you've discovered? Because you've been kind of full immersion on it for quite some time now.
Yeah, happy to. Well, actually, it turns out later today, so as we're recording this, I'm doing a presentation on AI and going through some of that material. But I think what I demonstrated was, I started out each of us had 7 minutes to do a little bit. So of course I thought about this. How can I open up and entertain the audience, first of all, and get them engaged, and then, wow them, but then bring it back to how you can use this too. And the walkthrough was, I opened up with a little deep fake of, in this case, Dan's a big Donald Trump guy, so I had Donald Trump do an announcement of Dan, and then I have a different character opening up for me tomorrow that I deep faked. So I had a system called Midjourney create the face. That was completely 100% synthetic. I had another system create the voice. I had another system do the deep fake animation and put it all together. And the whole process, and I wrote the script with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I said, write an intro announcing Dan Sullivan on stage in the voice of Donald Trump, right? And it really sounds like
it was amazing.
Him.
Yeah.
And then, it did a really good job. And then from there, I really just dug into, like, here's how I'm using it right now, a way that you can too. So I began with, I tried to start with something that looked cool. So I had a Midjourney prompt that said, a border collie throwing a fastball in the style of Leroy Neiman. And it's this beautiful dog painting. And I had never heard of Leroy Neiman, but it really looks like hand-painted work.
Yes.
And of course, anytime you open up with kitties, puppies, bunnies, and smiley, happy children, that's a good way to get an audience, right? But then it turned into, let's do logos, let's do architecture. And then I fed it a prompt that said, create a logo for an AI company that provides services to business owners to help them find AI strategists and determine how to use AI in their businesses. In other words, how a CEO could become an expert. And I asked it for 20 different business names, and it did that. And we came up with, and this is something that I did with Dan, a business name called AI Accelerate. And then I said, well, create a website design for a company called AI Accelerate. And it drew a whole bunch of website designs. So the way I frame this is, first of all, it's the perfect creative partner who creates a first draft, which is always the hardest thing for anyone to do, in seconds. And then you can learn how to ask it to change things. So it never takes anything personally. It never needs to sleep. It'll wake up at 3 a.m. when you're inspired, and never ask for a raise. So you've got all those benefits. And the hardest thing is getting past your mentality of, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, I don't have the right people around me. Realize that you'll run into your own scarce thinking and feel uncomfortable asking for more, because that is the nature of being human. So there's a new roadblock that you bump into from a creative perspective. And I think, just like, in a way, social media helped a lot of people get past the fear that, 15, 20 years ago, when I'd be on stage talking about using Traffic Geyser and using and creating video, people would be like, oh, I hate the way I look on video. I hate the way I sound, or I'm not blah, blah, blah. They always had a reason why they couldn't. And I had to overcome that objection in order to sell my stuff. And one of the things that social media did is it made everyone comfortable with being on video and having a portable recording studio with them all the time. I think AI is going to unleash a new side of humanity that we're neither comfortable with or familiar with yet.
So I'm amazed at how all of this is just coming on board now. Like I was saying to Dan, what's it going to be like when we really wrap our heads around that this Chat GPT-3 is, 1/500th of what's available in the next level of it. And as it's getting better and better, what's it going to be like? Like, what are the ramifications of essentially having an unlimited sweatshop full of graduate students that are working for free at your, on your command? It's pretty amazing what when you think about all of this stuff, like all the kind of low level things that we would be, I think about, you tell me whether this workflow, like right now, everything that I do, all the digital content creation that I do, we use something I've been referring to as the MOO method, which is the MOO method stands for multiplied oral output. All I do is talk. And as we're talking right now, we're capturing this audio and video. So we've got digital assets now. And once I've created a digital asset, I can literally be out of it because that means other people can manipulate that now. The most important part is getting my thoughts out from my brain into a digital format. Fastest bandwidth way is through your mouth. That's really the thing. Now, what we've done, and I've just only recently started doing the video for this, but I've always done the audio podcasts, and we've got a whole a sort of semi-automated process now where we get the audio transcribed, and then that goes to a writer who goes through and picks out 3 to 5 sort of 3 to 500 word, nuggets out of each podcast to create all the emails that I send. We send 3 emails a week to everybody, which are just summary lessons and things from the podcast. So is it possible that I could have that automated by AI to take this and say, summarize, like, what would you instruct it to take a transcript and say, pull out 3 to 5 important, topics kind of thing out of this?
I'll give you this. Yeah, I'm going to give you the workflow. I'll actually tell you exactly how I've been doing it.
All right.
And what can happen. All right. So the easy way right now, so there's 2 ways. One of them is you can use a tool that is called WordTune. This is a commercial tool, and you could point it at a video on YouTube, and it grabs all of the subtitles and then creates a summary. All right. And it will give you a summary of all the major bullet points and write them into chunks so they make sense. So basically, it'll bring an hour-long podcast down to being like 6 minutes or 7 minutes of all the salient, most important things. The other way you can do it is take your podcast and upload it into like otter.ai, which will do the transcript. And then you can feed chunks into it into Chat GPT. And there's a command you give it because you can't put everything in Chat GPT without it puking. In other words, it buffers. So you have to basically tell Chat GPT, I'm going to give you chunks of a transcript. And after you digest each chunk, just say, I'm ready. And I will tell you when I'm done. Okay, that's basically the instructions. And then you just grab a chunk at a time. You basically copy paste 10 minutes in. And then you'll say, now take that entire transcript and I want you to create a list of the top 10 most valuable bullets that a business owner or entrepreneur would find interesting, and then it'll go boom. And then after that, you'd say, now write a 1-paragraph summary describing the most important things from each of those bullets. Boom, it would do it. And then you can say, now write 10 tweets for each of those bullets. Boom, it'll spit them out. All right. It even gets a little more interesting than that, because you can have it write emails, LinkedIn, Facebooks. You could even tell it, I want you to turn each of those 10 items into clickbait titles built based on the voice of TMZ, and it will do it.
Wow.
You could even say, turn each of those into lyrics for a rap in the voice of Eminem.
Right. Yeah. This is amazing, right? Like this is where we don't really truly understand what the capabilities are. And that's why I was having a conversation with Eben Pagan the other day. I was saying, I believe that the prompt lessons are going to be the new piano lessons, that kids, parents are going to send their kids for 30 minutes a week of prompt lessons instead of piano lessons, and fully equip them for the future. But when you imagine now, man, just having that at your fingertips, we truly don't understand yet what we really have. It's so amazing.
Yes.
Did you ever were you familiar with Get Magic? Did you ever get into this was years ago. I've used them for years. They're a text-based real human AI, or not AI, assistant.
Yes. I got some talent from Get Magic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so I've used them for anything, to be a surrogate me. Like, hey, I need 3 Apple Watches delivered here before Christmas, and it would go and find them and do the whole thing, right? And that was, you didn't have to do any looking or hunting or anything like that. I took this a few years ago when I came across this website called This Person Does Not Exist. And and so I was fascinated by that. And I got to think, because this deep fakes were just kind of starting, and I had this idea, Mike, of creating a persona like that and turning that persona into the number 1 real estate agent in a market, right? So I used Get Magic this was maybe 4 years ago now, maybe or more. And I said to Get Magic, my instruction was, research the top 100 baby names for girls from the 90s, right? The top 100 first names, and then make a list of the top 100 surnames, and then 4 interesting sounding 3 and 4 syllable combinations that are .com available. Right. So I was looking for a persona that I could create that the .com is available for personal branding, and it is an interesting sounding name. And the winning one, I created about 20 of them, and the winner that I chose was Lily Madden, which I like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a great name, right? Like, it rolls off the tongue, Lily Madden. And I started thinking, okay, now if you go to it was, this person does not exist. But now I understand there's you can create a custom avatar to be anything you want. That's a photo. You could custom sculpt what Lily Madden is. And, it's it's amazing to me that all these capabilities, you get to really create this whole, I just think you could create in the future here a boy band, of all avatars. And there was a show, Todd Herman.
Yeah.
I believe Todd. Yeah. And, his alter ego book, there was a show on TV called Alter Ego that was the singing competition where people presented as avatars. It wasn't the thing. And I just think that's like a view into the future here, that we are ultimately now getting into a position where we could be the ultimate creators with no constraints, no real limitations
Totally.
aside from our imaginations. So it's been
Yep.
fascinating to watch what you've been able to do when you were sharing all the things in Palm Beach and things you shared with me otherwise. But where to what end, though, do you see all of this going? Like Dan and I've been talking. We both have a podcast with Dan Sullivan. And so Dan on our podcast is called Welcome to Cloudlandia. And we talk about this whole migration to Cloudlandia, making the distinction between the mainland and Cloudlandia. And what I've really seen, like where it seems that this AI technology is really going to have the biggest impact is on content creation, that it's going to accelerate the ability for anyone to create content. So we're going to have more and more content. And just for fun, I started looking and found that, on YouTube right now, there's, I believe it's 4.5 million hours a day are uploaded to YouTube, or maybe it's minutes, but whatever it is, the equivalent, it would take you 432 years to watch linearly 1 day's worth of uploads on just YouTube. And we consume 5.5 million on YouTube every day, right? So it seems on the surface that we're consuming more than is being made, but what that doesn't account for is that 5.5 million is consumed of all of the content on YouTube. So we're growing by 4.5 million every single day. So that's going exponentially up. Our ability to consume it is limited by the mainland reality of the speed of reality, which is 60 minutes per hour. That we can only jam stuff in our eye holes at the rate of 60 minutes per hour. So what do you see like the end game of all of this extra content that's being created when it faces the very real constraint of our ability to consume it?
Yeah. So I got a couple, I talk about this a lot. A 20-year-old son, his name is Zach, and he is very terrified of AI because it's like, what's going to be left for us? What's going to be left for our generation? So here are a couple thoughts. One of them is, and this is something Dan Sullivan said. So on a negative side, it's going to make the stupid people a lot stupider. And when you think about, so you and I come from a similar generation. I love music played by real people playing instruments.
Yeah.
That's hard. Okay.
Yeah.
So I grew up with listening to bands like Rush.
Yeah.
Extraordinary, talented musicians.
Canadians.
And Led Zeppelin. And yeah, there you go. And like extraordinary talent or and also great studio recording. So if you go back to a lot of 80s and 70s, back when analog recording, it was hard. And you had to really be a great engineer to crank out something extraordinary. And now anyone can buy some loops and slap it together and rap. It's like, on one hand, Eminem's an incredibly talented rapper.
Yeah.
And you listen to Snoop, for example, incredibly talented, great producer who knows how to do stuff with lyrics and be able to think like that and improvise. And then there's an enormous amount, massive volumes of garbage out there. So I think the garbage to talent ratio is going to increase. And yet what, happened during, and I'll call it the rap generation, when suddenly there were samples and loops. There were people who'd never had access to tools before who suddenly did, who were remarkably creative. So I think it's democratized in the same way that in Africa, the general belief is, because there are algorithms that are tuned now to help you learn faster, it will learn your learning style and then deliver content to you so you can acquire knowledge faster. It's like getting downloads from the Matrix. So we're going to see optimized learning at an incredible pace. And, you got to ask yourself, well, what's the difference between environment, nurture, nature, character? You can have a remarkable family and they still produce a serial murderer, sociopath, okay? It's possible that could be embedded into some fundamental that has nothing to do with the parents or the environment. And I ultimately choose to look at this from the positive, which is a lot of people are going to look at it and go, oh my God, what about the jobs? And look, it's going to destroy a bunch of jobs. And what will happen is there will be the elimination of mediocre jobs. So here's the metaphor that I use. And again, this will get us to the end game. Back when human beings had to avoid big animals in order to survive, or bad tribes that would kill them and steal their women or do whatever, enslave them, whoever got to be really good at making traps and throwing rocks lived longer, okay? So being a good rock thrower was great, but then someone came up with a spear, a pointy stick, and put a piece of stone on the end that was sharp and pointy. Well, the spear throwers were the survivors. Well, then it was bows and arrows. And then it became cannons, and then guns, and then the mass production of warfare. And then, and look at it now. Well, then it's about military might. But then what about society when we had a lot of horses and you had cities, and soon the city streets were filled with horse poop? Cars came in, and the horse poop picker-uppers were like, they're taking our jobs. And someone might try to legislate, those darn nabbing cars, let's get them out of here. But in the meantime, people who are dying of horse poop related diseases were like, cars are better. And the fact that a lot more produce got pulled into town, a lot fresher, and people died less of stale food or whatever, it's like anyone who chooses to fight technology progress will always lose. And they may get away with scheming and lobbying and trying to throw something at a bureaucrat and paying them off, but they're going to lose. And someone said this the other day. I was listening to a podcast called All In, and basically someone did some research and found that since the industrial times and also in technology times, technology actually creates more jobs. Yeah. So what I would suggest is those who fight mediocrity, stuff that technology renders obsolete. And let's face it, very few people now would have any idea how to smelt iron and make iron things, or even grow their own food, or know how to hunt and dress an animal properly, and would die. All right. But society protects that. But in the meantime, we can focus on more valuable things that are massive societal multipliers, architecture or technology and automation. And some activities are going to be rendered obsolete, and only the artisans will continue to do that, or the entertainers will continue to use that. And I don't see there being anything wrong with that. But, humans get attached to ridiculous things. And sometimes we have to look and say, what kind of ridiculous things are we attached to? And nostalgia. Yeah. So I think the end game here is, what will happen is it won't be long, and we are going to have a lot of AI companions, just like a lot of kids. And if, like my 20-year-old, he and his buddies would sit around on their phones, and he was the last kid with a smartphone. Like, we tried to keep it out of life, but kids will sit in a room together, not talking, and they're texting other people and then talk about their texts, right? Yeah. That is a societal change. Most kids don't know how to answer a damn phone. Right. They don't even think to react and respond like you and I do. We have a conversation that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and an acknowledgement of the beginning and the end. Most kids don't have that. Their continuity filter is jacked up. Yeah. So I think our AI companions are going to enhance everything we do. We're going to take it for granted, just like now. If you take away someone's phone, they can't get anywhere. And you'd be like, well, no one knows how to read a map anymore. And if you go to London, back in the days when you had to know the city and all the maps, and now any idiot can drive an Uber, and they're going to, like a lemming, they'll drive off the side of a cliff if their damn smartphone tells them to do it. They'll be like, they'll argue with you. Well, it's told me to drive off the cliff. Okay? So, we're going to have, it's going to be a stupid multiplier. No question about it. And then for those who choose to become a true multiplier and an enhancer, I think it's going to make some of us 100 and 1,000 and infinitely more productive and creative.
Yeah.
So I way over answered your question, but it's a complex societal human being.
Yeah. And it just is. And it's no, I mean, you know, when you were saying that, I was realizing it's as old as time. You look at everybody saying, you know, when automobiles came in, I had a funny meme. I was in London several summers ago, and there was a car that was abandoned on the bridge by the Parliament, and they were suspicious that it was a bomb, right? Like, so literally, I'm on the boat going down the Thames with the thing, and that road, the bridge is all blocked off, and they've got the helicopters above, and they're sending in the robots to look. So I took a picture of it, and then I put on the thing, you know, these robots are taking our jobs. Like the whole, nobody minds that the robots are taking the bomb sniffing jobs, you know?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Life's getting better. Nobody's going to die sniffing out bomb. But you look at, the whole, now to be able, I love how, you know, up-leveled it to our AI companions. They're personifying them. I mean, that's really how it's going to feel. I rewatched the movie.
Her. I know. What a great movie.
Yeah. We just watched it. That's 10 years old now, and it feels so real now.
Unbelievable.
Like, you know, how that's going to happen. And I imagine that it's going to be a thing that people are going to start developing feelings for their AI, you know, their operating system. But that's definitely where it's all headed. But I think fundamentally still we've got to, I think the thing of creating really good content, like a lot of this, the thing that I'm seeing now, the lowest hanging fruit, of course, and I think it's going to start just like what we saw with digitization. Like, it started with text, and that was the beginning with PDFs and email and the ability to move and create text stuff. Then right behind it was the audio, and then video, and then the platforms to build it all on. And I see us following that same path there, that if you take that all the way to the end, you know, descriptive video, being able to just narrate or direct something, and the visuals of that are created in real moving time. So there's going to be a real need for, I think the cream is going to rise to the top in a way. There's going to be a lot of garbage stuff.
Yes.
And then, so I wonder if, like, the role of curation and how that's going to you know, become a filter maybe for it.
Yes. Well, I think for that, you know, I wrote a little, so here, I think I've shown this to you, but I've been working on the curriculum for Abundance 360.
Yeah.
I'm teaching an AI for CEOs and executives. So I built a book that's right now just about 100 pages long with my favorite sites, tons of scripts and prompts in it. And first, my vision was, hey, I'm going to have AI write the book. I used some tools that you can get that basically, it's like a Google sheet, and I pasted in a whole bunch of links to the sites that I've found to be super useful. Okay, like there's a platform called SoundDraw that you can compose music, and it does a really good job. I mean, it makes good sounding music, well imaged, and you can pick a style, what instruments to use, how long you want it to be, the mood, speed, all that. And so the goal I had was, hey, I'll have ChatGPT and a couple of plugins scan the site, scrape it, and then summarize this website. So that would be a description. And then create a one-sentence description, and then create a category, and then use DALL-E. There's a command I'd send, which is a image creator, and it would say, take this description and turn the description into a photo or a picture in the style of Pixar. All right. So then it would basically make a thumbnail of what that thing it interpret. And the whole idea is I wanted to create an AI generated book. Okay. Well, it turns out that the quality isn't quite good enough. It does take, like, call it a second pass to make it useful. And what I didn't know at the time was every time I open up the spreadsheet, it recreated everything. It re-executed all the commands. So it basically erased the stuff that was in there before.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it used up all of my Chat GPT or my OpenAI credits and said, oh, yeah, you've used $150 worth of credits and your account is capped. You have to request more credits. And I'm like, and that took like a week. I'm like, well, damn it, So the point is, I got a little bit ahead of myself. And again, this takes some iteration and experimentation. So back to curation. Here's what I see happening is already everything that if you use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any of those, you already have curated content.
Yes.
I had heard that right now, Google and Facebook don't even need to follow you around and track you because it completely understands what you want and can predict it. Doesn't need any more sample data at all. In fact, when you aggregate everyone's stuff, which all that aggregated stuff exists, it can pretty much predict anything you like without any sample data anymore.
Wow.
That's how good the AIs are. And so if you fast forward into the very near future, and I'm talking like 3 to 5 years from now, you're going to be able to do a generative movie. And you won't even have to tell it what you want. You'll just say, I'm in the mood for sci-fi, or it will know that tonight you're in the mood for sci-fi.
Right.
And it will generate a real-time movie with artificial actors based upon what it already knows you like.
Or that's part of the thing. Somebody, you see a future where somebody can say, write me a sci-fi movie with Bruce Willis and whatever. Yeah.
Yep.
That's so amazing. Somebody, I think in our group chat with Eben there, somebody had sent in something about the Unreal Engine, the environment creating things, which just looked so real. It's crazy. Yep. Yeah, we're really I just think like you mentioned Abundance 360. So for people who don't know, that's Peter Diamandis has a annual conference that he's committed to doing for 25 years. And I think this will be year 12 now coming in.
Yes.
Year 12 of 25. And, focusing on, AI and robotics and longevity and Bitcoin or crypto, all of the stuff. But I'd have to say this year, like coming into it, the exponential, like the gap from what was last year in the landscape to this year is mind blowing. I mean, even just in the things you're going to share.
Yeah.
That's been a thing. You've seen crypto and Bitcoin and stuff on a bit of a down in the war. It's kind of distracted people from that crypto's a bit of a bust right now. But the AI and stuff is really, on the rise in a way that we've never seen anything like it, even more impactful than the internet took a lot longer to kind of, we've been living with it, since the early 90s, and it's kind of gradually matured to where it's everywhere. But now to go from, things go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like everybody's on Chat GPT now. So the ramifications of where everything's going. But there's still, it's still an idea world. There's never been a better time to be a creator, adapter,
I completely, not only do I completely agree, there was a time not long ago, and like you and I are close enough in age where when the first PCs came out, pre-internet, there weren't really, a modem was black magic.
Yeah.
But, the whole idea of like, I remember I worked at an Apple store. So, and I wrote code and I was consulting at the same time. I grew up a very broke kid, and I hated being poor, and being in Minnesota was not my idea of living. I was like, I got to get out of here and move to Silicon Valley and go work for jobs in Wozniak. That was my goal, and go write video games. So before I got my video game programming job, I'm working in the store, and I can remember people would come in and their computer didn't work. And it was because they didn't know to flip the latch when they put a floppy disk in, or they put their floppy disk in upside down and it didn't work. It was like stupid stuff like that.
I remember the floppy disks. I remember there's so much. I remember programming Space Invaders game in BASIC and just being so thrilled with that. Like that you could use the space bar and use the arrows to move something was just like, It was such an amazing thing. Pachoo, pachoo, pachoo.
Yeah.
That shooting these things. And, I'm talking about like 1980, 81, that kind of thing. And your floppy disk going to the computer lab to get your computer time. It's so funny. And now here we are. Life just keeps getting better.
Imagine how people then felt so uncomfortable with giving a machine commands, right? That was difficult. And I think right now there's going to be this period of time when it's just going to feel weird. And you know what? When people started getting cars, going from horse to car, felt weird. We had to learn a new language, and it's like, oh, you don't have to feed it, but you have to remember to service it. Or here's what this smell means, right? If you know what a bad brake smells like or sounds like, you get used to a new form of feedback, and our brains are going to adapt. And I do think that, the brain moves at a certain speed, and someone will say, well, you can't bring in more information. However, when you watch a young person, the way they digest and consume content and adapt to a user interface can navigate a significantly more complicated world. And I remember it was 1997, I went to Egypt on a trip with Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer. It was like this trip of touchy-feely, woo-woo people, a lot of feathers and crystals and so on. And we were traveling.
Chakra tweaking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We did all that. I was into that at the time. I was like a vegan, and I played the didgeridoo, and I was channeling and chanting and doing all sorts of stuff. It was awesome. But here's what was wild. There was this guy. Is it emetologist? What is it when you're a language master?
Entomologist.
Etymologist. There you go.
Etymology. Yeah.
It sounds like someone who collects bugs, right?
Right.
It's very close, very close. It'd be like ladybugs in their pocket or languages. Anyway.
Yeah, right.
So this guy was going through the evolution of language and I'm going to just say, I don't remember if it was Sumerian or Mesopotamian, whatever preceded Egyptians, okay? And then from Egyptians, the Greeks basically stole a bunch of Egyptian stuff, and then the Romans copied and stole that. And then you evolved into, let's call it Old English, and then the other Romance languages, and then you go to English now. And what this guy was doing is teaching us some words and concepts. And I had this massive aha when he described a concept. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but let's say it was grain. And then there would be a word for processing grain, and then the movement and transfer and processing of grain all the way to some other complicated thing. And if you have to go back in time thousands of years and describe an iPhone to someone, you have to stack an enormous number of concepts, or let's call them stacked memes, get to an understanding, right? History here. And you can't just say a clay tablet. Like, they're not going to understand what a screen is or a cursor or the notion of stored video. I mean, their brains are just going to explode for a little while. And it's not only going to look like magic and witchcraft. Rocking something fully requires a stack. And I think what AI is going to continue to do is enable us to communicate with blobs and stacks that will be optimized. So the fear I have is, like you were talking earlier, where there's so much content out there, there's an infinite number of channels. AI is going to enable creating hundreds of channels that are personalized for you versus back when you and I grew up, when you have ABC, NBC, CBS, and PBS, right? It'd be like, that's what you got. And everything's linear. And everyone's tuning into the same shows. And it was like, you'd go from $6 Million Man to whatever came next, to whatever came next. Yeah.
Fantasy Island and the Love Boat.
Right.
And the Waltons.
I'd be like, hey, did you? Yeah. Right. All that. And now, there is no channel. There is no linearity. There's only random access. And I know people will watch Netflix in 2X.
Do you know something? I heard something. The distance between us and when the Waltons was on TV, the distance between us and when the Waltons was in the 30s is less than the distance between us and the Waltons when it was on TV. because that's 50 years now that it's been.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, isn't that something? Like, that seemed like back in olden times, right? When you were in the 70s, the 30s seemed like forever ago. Yeah. It's just amazing to me to think these how quickly we've come. And you look at even just what we're doing right now. We're staring at a computer screen, talking to each other thousands of miles away, like that's completely normal.
Yep.
Imagine explaining that to your 10-year-old self. You know, I mean, that you think about that. The only way, the proximity of things. That's like, you know, you think about the breadth now of you can find your people. Like, I would consider you a good friend, and but we're so far away. It's like, you know, we see each other, you know, occasionally, but the relationship, you know, and we've all got friends like that, like all the people we were with in Palm Beach. You know, it had been three years since I'd seen any of them in person, including you. But it felt like just yesterday because we've maintained the relationship through. This feels like really like we're sitting having a real conversation, you know, so it doesn't feel like any time has passed when we when we get together.
Intimacy has been redefined.
Yeah.
For sure, right? And what that even means. And if you could take this to the nth degree, look at OnlyFans, right? It'd be like, woo! What is the new normal in terms of relationship?
I don't know how people are making all this money of just selling fans. I mean, have you seen that meme? There's a TikTok video where the guy's all excited. He goes, guys, look at all this money my girlfriend made just selling fans online. Only fans.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I love it.
But now the OnlyFans, I think the newest thing I've seen from AI is the deep fake OnlyFans accounts that are, you know, that are AI, you know, compilation things that are not real people. That's pretty, I mean, yeah. That's the thing is anything, what is it? Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's really where that's what we're getting to, right? So what would be, what would be, would you say, like, let's give people like top 3 action steps here to embrace this, to prepare for it, or to really take advantage of? What's the low-hanging fruit for people?
Okay, what I would do is there are a couple directories. So I think immersion is the first thing, and just familiarity. There is a website called futuretools.io, and a friend of mine named Matt Wolf started this. And this is a website, by the way, that's built by AI, and he organizes, it's a directory of AI tools, and he's adding new ones all the time. He also has a really good YouTube channel where he demonstrates these things. So, and he's just a good dude, and his content's great. And he's gone from like a podcaster who had a podcast with another friend of mine to suddenly having a massive following, and his videos are being seen tens of thousands of times, even hundreds of thousands in a very short period of time, because this really captured minds. And then there's another one called Futurepedia. I think that's futurepedia.io. Another good directory, and another one I go to, which is All Things AI. And those will get you started so you can at least just click and play. And then if you go down a couple of YouTube rabbit holes, you'll see these guys demonstrating the tools, and that's really good. The other one is I can give you a link to get my book, which I'll give away. And I'll put the link in here, and by the time this is live, it'll be all set up. But go to MikeKoenigs.com/freeai. Okay. And that'll be the same guide that I put together for Budget Coach, Abundance 360. And I am literally adding to it every single day right now. And it's just filled with chat prompts and directory and use cases that are practical and tactical, meaning, the one I demonstrated at Strategic Coach last week was showing how to create a scorecard, which normally is hard. It takes a
Yeah.
lot of time to make something that looks good and is relevant. It requires a lot of thinking. And I think I built this thing end to end, including coloring the little boxes and everything after it was written in less than 10 minutes.
That's great. Yeah. I was
It
amazed
certainly
when you
would have been a
showed
half a
that.
day.
Yeah. Dan and I talked about that on our podcast. We talked about it Sunday, so it'll go up. But we talked about you. We talked about that concept. It's amazing.
Yes. So those are probably the biggest ones, is adapting this to be your creative partner. And I like to say again, your first draft partner, because anyone can get past the first draft. And between now, I have approximately 90 minutes from this moment in real time to when I'm doing my annual predictions webinar, where I always pick something big. And historically, it'll be like, I may have just come back from CES, for example, and I'm reporting on all the new technology that's lighting me up or whatever. And, it wasn't long ago when the iPhone came along and replaced 100 gadgets, right?
I love to see those Radio Shack ads that are, that a full page ad in Radio Shack of all of the things, a compass and a flashlight and an audio recorder and all the things that we take for granted of your iPhone. Certainly convergence now, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm going to open up my session today and say, I'm not really excited with physical stuff anymore. I own another iPhone. What are they going to
where are you going to go from this? Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
Right. Like I saw a great meme. It was a picture of a guy opening a Christmas gift that he was wearing a plaid shirt. And he's opening a gift, and it's the exact same plaid shirt. And the meme was me upgrading my iPhone to the iPhone 14, right? It just is the same, one plaid shirt to another. But how are you going to improve on this, right?
Yeah, or all I got to see, I've been driving electric cars since the Tesla Roadster. I got one of the earlies.
Yeah, I remember.
And that thing was... it had its flaws, but it was a perfect car. It was just, and there was a gas pedal, which it was all on, and you were like 0 to 100 miles an hour really fast, 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds.
I just got my second Tesla X, and insanity mode is just like crazy.
Yeah, it's a perfect car. Yeah. So what are we gonna do from here? Now it's a race to minimalism, because all you need is a stick in there, and pretty soon you won't even have outside mirrors because there's screens on the interior and a much bigger battery, and the batteries will last longer and charge faster, and we'll have convenience things, but there are things we'll just take for granted. Yeah. And, I don't need another camera anymore because my phone's great and I've got the latest Mac, but the God honest truth is my 10-year-old iMac Pro was about as good as the
same
super
thing.
fancy.
There's not any real difference in the MacBook laptops. I just got a new one, and you're right. It doesn't. It feels and looks the same as the one the one it replaced before that. They really nailed the design.
Yep.
Wow.
So what do I want an upgrade in? Let's call it quality of life.
Yeah.
More time. More intimacy. Like, I'd love more Dean in my life, right? I like to say, someone said, well, tell me about Dean. And I'll go, well, here's the truth. I see him at Coach. We talk, but I actually pay him as a advisor to me so I can have more Dean time. I want him to feel valued and connected. And I'm sure you and I would talk, and, it's not like there has to be a transaction here. But I like to give you money because I get value from that, and I want more time with Dean. How can I stack the relationship?
Right.
And
I love that. It's so great. I mean, we could talk forever about all this stuff. I'm going to say, so I want people to go to MikeKoenigs.com/free AI. That's let's start there. Get that, download that starter kit. They'll be in your world there, and it'll go from there. But I just think, to be continued. Stay tuned. We're at the very beginning. We're 3 months into it, right? I mean, right after Thanksgiving is when it all came
Yeah, it was
about.
the 22nd they released, and they went to 100 million users, the fastest growing platform in the history of humanity.
Was
by
it
a long
November
shot.
22nd? Is that when it was? November 22nd?
I believe that's what it was. It was, I think that's
11/22.
pretty sure. I just
yeah.
grabbed a stat that I'm using today, and no, it's not in here, but I think that's when it came out.
It
I can
just
check
came
really
all
fast.
of a sudden too, though. That's what's amazing. Well, I can't wait. I mean, it'll be so amazing to see like what I just believe that next year, doing this whole thing at A360 next month. And that's,
Yep.
Like I said, I think this is going to be the biggest of all of the 12 years. And I've been at or streamed every one of them, that this is the biggest jump, I think, year to year that we've seen. And I think it's going to happen again next year, that so much of this stuff we're right on the cusp. I can't wait to see what 2030 looks like. It's just be a whole different world.
You're right. So, by the way, it's November 30th. So I actually underestimated, and
Yeah,
I grabbed that, and I agree with you. And so
We're 2.5 months into this. I mean, we're less than 12 weeks, not even 100 days on this.
It's astonishing.
Yeah.
TikTok, here's what it is. Months to reach 100 million global monthly users. So ChatGPT was 2 months. TikTok was 9. Instagram was 30. Pinterest was 41. Spotify 55. Telegram 61. Uber was 70. And then Google Translate was 78. And so, and if you think about the way this is going to affect, again, it democratizes thinking, education, communication, creativity, engineering, law, the consumption of content.
Everything that's knowable. That's the great thing, is like I was making a distinction between, book reports and field reports. There's still going to be room for insight and advancement of original thinking, but AI is certainly anything that's known right now based on a body of work. This is the fastest way to be able to, compile stuff from the known body of work, which is plenty. There's enough. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. MikeKoenigs.com/free AI. Get started there. We'll meet you in the cloud. Mike, I love it. The only thing we're missing is the hug at the end, but we'll see you soon.
Cuddle time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks so much.
Snuggle time. We call it snuggle time.
Snuggle time. Thanks so much for coming on.
All right, brother.